Good day, ma'am and everyone. Our topic is on chapter 3, which is elementary school guidance and counseling. Elementary school guidance and counseling, it is part of the total school programs and complements learning in the classroom. And speaking of complements, it is to make it better. So, mas mulambo, mas munindot sa Bisaya pa. And it is child-centered, which means minors are not fully matured. Preventive and developmental, where it encourages students' social, emotional, and personal. The elementary school guidance and counseling, their purpose is to help students maximize their potential like skills, careers, and their schoolwork activities. So, kana. How does the elementary school counselor work? Counseling is conducted with students and parents individually and in small groups when requested and determined appropriate. So, as the sentence said that it is individually and small groups. So, pwede siya sa individual, pwede siya sa by grupo. And number one, or the first is parents request and indicate a need and desire that the counselor meet with their children. So parents request and indicate. So speaking of indicate, it is about suggestion. So parents request and suggest a need and desire that the counselor meet with their children. So as a parent, dapat po na mo suggest sila sa counselor na ilang students, ilang children na okay ra. So mas na may makatunan, magadahom kanang desire. And the second one is students request counseling. So as a student, there is no counseling kung wala po yung student. So ang students will request po sa mga counselor. Third, our teachers, administrators, or other school staff refers the students. So, si teachers, si administrators, so whoever belongs to the school campus sa kuan, it is wala sila kung wala po yung mga students. And the next one is how does the elementary school counselor work? O unsaon nila pag-work? So parents are informed of counseling groups for children and adults. Group counseling sessions for children focus on children's self-esteem, learning how to make or keep friends, developing good study habits, improving communication skills, preparing for the intermediate school, and coping with changing family situations. So parents are informed, so parents are being giving advice to the counseling groups. So kinsa man mga counseling groups? So sa school, dahan sila kasi-kasing counseling groups that I will discuss later. What should say ginapili? It is okay for children, for adults, and also for parents. So as sa children focus, kay naman ta sa elementary school, so they are learned or they are teach by the counselor to make friends, to be friendly, to develop their study skills, ilang mga studies kinabuhi, and improve their communication skills. Preparing for the intermediate school, prepare for the next school, ilang eskwelahan, next nilang grade, and changing of family situations. It's very helpful, guys. It's because counseling helpful dito siya sa mga family situations like kanang mga problems. Muna siya, guys. And next are the benefits of counseling for students. So when we talk about benefits, it is good or helpful result and effect. So para maka-benefit ka ba kanang nakay makuha ang maayo mga resulta. So the first one is be successful in school. So as a teacher, as a counselor, your goal is to make your students successful. So dapat may goal nimo as a professional. Then Number 2, establish effective study skills. So, ang benefits for counseling can make students establish their effective study skills. Kinahanglan sila makatunan sa gipang kuan ni ipang lecture sa counselor. Third, adjust a new school. So, if you experience about counseling, you can adjust to other school, like transfer ba ka, kung silang rules and obligations sa school. So, kung agi kang counseling, you already know what's buhaton nimo inana. Next is develop positive feelings about work, family, and society. So, it is very, guys, important to have a positive feeling. So, to be positive is because being positive is being confident. You are confident about the result, kung unsa imong mahitabo, kung unsa imong resulta, dapat positive ka. It's because napakatabang sa imong work, sa family, and sa society. Next is deal positive feelings towards self and others. So, parehas sa previous, kuan na to have positive feelings gyapon, like sa imong kagalingon, sa others. So, kung positive mo tanan, there's no negativity. Nindot inyong area, inyong palibot, atmosphere. And develop skills in interacting and communicating with others. So, you can develop mga bagong skills and interacting and communicating with others. So, kung communicate ka sa imong mga kapwa, isang ka as a student, if you know experience about counseling, you have na kay makuha mga skills or sa pag interact kung saan nimo pag istorya. Okay, as a counselor, you will be lecturing mga students na kay itudlo, na kay pampuan. So, nasa po kayo, ang students na po yung makuha mga skills din mo diyan nakita. Then, next is cope with change in themselves and their surroundings. So, as you will be experiencing counseling, makikita dyan yung mga change sa imong kagalingon, change sa mga tao, o sa imong palibot. And next is identify and accept their own and their other strength and weaknesses. So, kani po guys, as you experience counseling, so you can accept your own strength. So, asa mo napita na ay potential, asa mo napita ko na ay talent, ang iba pang mga weaknesses, so you can know kung asa ang duwang strength and weaknesses. Next is recognize the causes and effects of their actions. So you can recognize the cause and effects. So, kung sa ang resulta, ang sanhi ug bunga ba. Kung sa ang resulta ani, kung buhaton ni nana kana advance ka mag-isip ba. O kabalo ka kung unsa mahitabo, maka ayo ba nimo, makadaot ba nimo. So, muna siya benefits of counseling pod, which is very important. Next is become responsible for their own behavior. So, if you experience counseling, kung dili ka responsible sa una, kung bugoy ka, so, kung maka-experience, kung mahana ni mo na diyan, napita, you can gain benefits, which is become responsible. So, na kay responsable na pagkatao o ibang batasan o sabsan. The last one is receive crisis intervention when necessary. So kung naa kay mga example, mga accident ay kalit nimo doon nimo na experience sa counseling, bro, na lagi nahitabo lagi bro. So katay mo na nakatunan, apply pa nimo sa uban. Dayon, understand the benefits of counseling for parents. So, number 1 is understand their children's progress in school. So, as a parent, kung mo experience ka of counseling, na po kayo makuha mga benefits. So, the first one is understand their children's progress in school. So, ang parent, ang ginikanan, makabalo kung unsa progreso sa iyang anak sa eskwelahan. Okay, kung ano mga may mga approachable na ginikanan. Next one is select strategies to motivate their children. So, kung unsay makuha nimong strategies pagpaminaw sa pag-counsel nimo sa mga counselors, school counselors, so you can apply the strategies na imong mapili to motivate your children. So, example na, kung buhaton na, Para o ang bata na maminaw karon ma-motivate sila. Then next is develop realistic goals with your children. So as a parent, naman dyan na sa nature sa itong parent, atong anak gusto na itong kamot ilang goals. Ang ilahang pangandoy. So once you will experience counseling, you will develop realistic goals. So realistic, dyan din karang sa kampana sa mga barkada, drawing, kundili. Tinood anay dyan, tinood anay. So next is become actively involved in their children's school life. So once you will experience counseling po as a parent, you will become active. Sa una, di ka mo attend ng mga meeting, mga programs. Kung mag-experience ka ng counseling, ma-appeal na ka na, active na ka ba? Okay, para na mabot sa imong anak mo, makabalo pag ako, di ba ka, para sa una, pangaging counseling na, meeting na pod. Kung saan mo nang barya na, pod na ba? Dahang ko nagreklamo. Mauna siya guys. Dahil, understand the educational program. So, if a parent na nakakuha ng counseling, he or she na makasabot dyan sa mga educational program. Sabot sa mga bata, ang mga kanang mga program. Then the counselor may lead parent education and discussion groups and serve as a resource when parents study or discuss child issues. So, as the counselor, may lead ko, ang counselor mag-lead sa mga parents, education, and discussion group. So, kanang makakuha silang mga resources ba? Kanang kuha silang, mutukan man mo ng counselor na, mo rin dapat matod sa mga anak, para makuha na. Isa example of benefits. So, dako di siya tabang sa ang counseling sa mga parents. Then, next, the counselor consults with parents to identify students with special abilities and or needs. So, as a responsibility po as a counselor, consult giving advice to the parents. Then, para mailan nila ang ilang anak, estudyante na kung sa ilang special abilities like skills, may baron mo drawing, may baron mo kuan, o ilang pang mga needs. Next is the counselor helps parents find other professionals within the school system or within the larger community when extra support is needed. So the counselor helps parents. Ang counselor tabangan ang mga ginikanan to find other professionals. So when we talk about professionals, kanang mga doctors, mga legit na trabaho. Dahil ilan ang tabangan ilang duulan sa counselor para matabangan ang mga ginikanan. Next are the benefits of counseling for the community. So, community, barangay, lugar, that's meaning of community. So, all students in the entire school system are served. So, once you are a student, you are served. Kaya di ba pwede po estudyante ka, dili ka tuluan sa inyong maestro, sa counselor. So, you are served. You're special. Next is a clearly defined curriculum provides information about the program of the community. So, the curriculum that provides information about the program of community. So, if you know about counseling, as a counseling, dahil doon silang ipagtudlo. May curriculum, unsa ang makatabang sa students, sa parents, sa community, then you can apply it sa imong galingon sa community. Next is business, industry, and labor can participate actively in the program. So, gain gyapon silang benefits. Ang mga business, industry, basta kay tanang tao sa community. Mga pidlera, mga labor, once na counseling, makakuha sila ng mga benefits. Next is a potential workforce is provided with decision-making skills and pre-employment skills. So, if a community maka-experience of counseling, makaagi sila, tuluan sila, di ka kuan silang decision-making, una-una sila sa sakto mga decision, and also for their pre-employment skills, silang pagkatrabaho na skills, ma-enhance silang napitan diha. Next are the duties and functions of counselors. So, duties and functions, it is also the responsibilities of counselors. So, mga trabaho, responsibilidad, kung silang function. sa community, sa parents, sa students, tanong tao. First is educational, which is correct para sa education. Vocational, which is correct para sa trabaho. Ang school counselors provide individual and groups with career and educational counseling. So, wala gipili ang counseling, ang counselor. Because they can provide sa individual, o sa pwede po sa groups, pwede po sa tao. And pwede po sa career, pwede po sa education. In schooling settings, elementary through post-secondary, they usually are called school counselors. And they work with students, including those with academic and social development problems and those with special needs. Next is school counselors help students evaluate their abilities, interests, talent, and personality characteristics. So, a school counselor, mo evaluate, mo study sa ka students on sa ilang abilities, interesado ba sila sa ilang mga butanga, silang talents, o silang characteristics. Next, our counselors use interviews, counseling sessions, interest, and aptitude assessment test, and other methods to evaluate and advise students. Ang counselor, dili na po kanang face-to-face na pagkankuan, na kung maagi like interviews, counseling, aptitude assessment, test, or bisag unsang method para lang maka-evaluate sa mga students. Next is they also operate career information centers and career education program. So, wala siya ipili guys. Pwede sila sa career, sa career, o pwede po sa career and education program. Ilang duties is to help students and other people. Next is they help students develop job search skills such as resume writing and interviewing techniques. So, ako na-experience ako aripod na may mga counselor ito sa school. May tunuan nila kung saan pag-apply yung mga skills, kung saan mo pag-apply yung trabaho sa mga skills, kung saan mo sulat sa resume, mga trabaho. And next is the elementary school counselors observe younger children during classroom and play activities and confer with their teachers and parents. So, elementary school counselors, so we talk about elementary school counselors, they are minors, yung mga bata man, elementary, grade 6, 11 years old. So, kung sa may bata ng mga bata na, so, during sa ilang classroom they will play, kasi mga batong activities, magdula-dula, which is para marambod ma-confer to their teachers and parents. Next is school counselors at all levels help students to understand, deal with social, behavioral, and personal problems. So, the school counselor, it is their duty to understand the students, mga problema, personal problem, ilang behavior, sa mga social na ginabuhat. It is their duty. And counselors provide special services including alcohol and drug prevention programs and often conflict resolution classes. So, naka-experience ang guro tanan kang naiwadto sa barangay hall, madto sa school, na may program about drug katong mga time na uso pang tukhang-tukhang. As you can remember guys, na sila mga counselors. Next, our counselors interact with students individually, in small groups, or even with entire class. So, counselors, pwede sila sa individual, sa kastudyante, pwede sa small groups, o pwede po sa ibang klase. They consult and collaborate with parents, teachers, school administrators, school psychologists, medical professionals, and social workers. So, makikolaborate na siya sa members sa community, member society, which is mga parents, teachers, mga students, administrators, psychologists, unsa pa na. And vocational counselors who provide mainly career counseling outside the school setting are also referred to as unemployment counselors or career counselors. So when we talk about vocational, it is about the special skills about teaching, that's especially sa mga job or occupation. So may career counseling outside the school. So mga dili na sila mga Di na sila membro sa school, kundi dili ka ng mga tao, ng mga community, gusto mo kung sila, mo help sila, para ma-employ sila mga job. Then, their chief focus is helping individuals with career decisions. So, ilang dako is to help individuals, i-help sa ilang mga career decision. Next are vocational counselors explore and evaluate the client's education, training, work history, interests, skill, personality traits, and arrange for aptitude and achievement tests to assist the client for making career decisions. So, vocational counselors explore and evaluate the client's education. Kung silang trabaho sa una, work history, kung silang mga interest, kung silang mga skills, anong sila, personality traits nila ko, maayo ang tao, ano. So it's their duty to explore or to research. I-research nila ang sa katao. Then, next is they also work with individuals to develop their job search skills and they assist clients in locating and applying for jobs. So, kato guys, matapang sila mga tao kung apply jobs, pangitag trabaho. Then, next is rehabilitation counselors help people deal with the personal, social, and vocational effects of disability. So, nanapilahing types of counselors, which is rehabilitation. So, we talk about rehabilitation. It is to bring back someone to normal or bring back someone to his previous condition. So, rehab. It's to help people with social, personal, and vocational effects and also disabilities. Next is they counsel people with disabilities resulting from birth defects and illness or disease, accidents, or the stress of daily life. So, the counsel of people, tabang sila sa mga disabled, mga birth defects, apan sa pagkatao, mga disease, illness, accidents, and stress of daily life. It's also their duty. Next is they evaluate the strengths and limitations of individuals, provide personal and vocational counseling, and arrange for medical care, vocational training, and job placement. So, dahan kayo silang guys, tabangan sa vocational, sa medical care, sa training, ug sa job placement. So, grabe silang duties sa itong society. Rehabilitation counselors interview both individuals with disabilities and their families, evaluate school and medical reports, and confer and plan with physicians, psychologists, occupational therapists, and employees to determine capabilities and skills of the individual. So, rehabilitation counselors, so they will interview ang both na disabilities ug ang iyahang pamilya. So, di kan makakuan sila sa para ma-offer nila sa mga professional na mga physicians, psychologists. So, sila ang silbi tulay, bridge sa mga tao para ma-offer sa uban. Then, next is the mental health counselors work with individuals, families, and groups to address and treat mental and emotional disorders and to promote optimum mental health. So, lahi na po siya kasing counselor guys, which is mental health. And speaking of mental health, it is about siya sa mga mental disorders, ang mga utok guys. They work with individuals, sa families, and groups to address. So, please share sa kasa guys. And they treat or giayon nila ang mga emotional disorder o gi-promote ang mga mental health. Next they are trained in a variety of therapeutic techniques used to address a wide range of issues, including depression, addiction, and substance abuse, societal impulse, stress management, problems with self-esteem, issues associated with aging, job and career concerns, educational decisions, issues related to mental health and emotional health, and family, parenting, marital, or other relationship problems. So, daghan kayo. Guys, ito ka-imagine na daghan kayong gitabangan ang counseling. Parang halos-halos tanan. Halos-halos ang aspect sa problema sa kung sa'y kulang na to. They are very important to sa society. And next is mental health counselors, who are kanang mga gadil sa mga mental disorder na counselor, often work closely with other mental health specialists such as psychiatrists, psychologists, clinical social workers, psychiatric nurses, and other counselors. So, may mga counselors na kung nasa sila parang dikit sa mga doctors, sa mga mental health. So, if you have a problem, totoo ni mental health counselors, so, sila na yung bahala mo. Tingod mo kung ano mo offer sa mga professionals para sa mga mental disorder. Substance abuse and behavior disorder counselor helps people who have problems with alcohol, drugs, gambling, and eating disorders. So, substance abuse and behavior disorder counselor. So, na po na yung counselor na hari sila na-assign sa mga problema sa mga alcohol, mga adik kong inom, alam mo ba, drugs, mga adik, gambling, mga sugal, o mga eating disorder. So, mga sila yung mga substance abuse and behavioral disorder counselors. Next are de-counsel individuals who are addicted to drugs. Drug addicts, no? Pwede na to. Helping them to identify behavior and problems related to their addiction. So, they would help sa mga drug addict kanang pamaagi sa pag-rehab para may bawaan nila kung sila mga problema, kung sila dapat ayuhon. So, it's their duty. It's the counselor's responsibility. Next, or last one of my topic, marriage and family therapists apply principles, methods, and therapeutic techniques to individual families, couples, or organization in order to resolve emotional conflicts. Apil po sila sa mga marriage and family therapists by principles. So, daghan po siya guys. Halos sa kuan sa community, sa society na adod nila. Pwede nila ma-offer o mutabang sila. So, muna to guys. Thank you. Muna to part sa report.
Thank you, Mr. Buhian. Now, let's continue about the duties and functions of counselor. A gerontological counselor provides services to elderly persons and their families when they face changing lifestyle as they grow older. So when we say gerontological, it says that it's a scientific study of the old age and of the present to becoming an old or to become a mature person. Next, a multicultural counselor helps employers adjust to an increasingly diverse workforce. So, as a counselor, we already know that we might encounter different cultures or multicultural counselors. Genetic counselors. It provides information and support to families who have members with birth defects or genetic disorders and to families who may be at risk for a variety of inherited conditions. So, it's a part of the controls or influences the appearance or growth of a person. So, these duties of functions or of counselor, it identify families at risk. It investigate the problem that is present in the family and it interpret information about the disorder. So it also analyze the inheritance problems and risk. Now let's proceed with the developmental guidance and counseling. So here, it is a program of guidance and counseling services which is available to all students. And it also includes crisis counseling for students who have immediate needs, but it is much more. It believes that all students can benefit from contact with a counselor, and it believes that social and emotional development in children is a process of growth, changing all the time. It believes that children who are aware of themselves and their needs will make responsible choices for themselves. And lastly, every child is unique and special. So, in guidance and counseling program, it helps students or children foster their development their development. So it helps us mold to how to become a productive, or to become more um, more knowledgeable enough for ourselves. Next, how does the counselor works with students? So it has three types. First is the classroom guidance. The counselor regularly visits classrooms to present lessons about such things as getting along with others, following school rules, safety, career, education, and much more. So, in here, ang counselor moadto sa kada classroom para mulantaw dito kung napa ba ang school rules, na-apply pa ba sa students ang school rules, which is makatabang pod sa mga bata. Next, individual counseling. It is available to talk with a student privately if the concern is very private, or if the student does not work well in a small group. So, individual counseling focuses on a privacy of something from the students. Next, small group counseling. The counselor invites students who share the common concerns to meet with her in her office for a few sessions. So, small group. Next, understanding the scope of confidentiality. So, when we say confidentiality, it's about how you trusted. How are you trusted with a secret or a private information? So there is a tendency to methodologize the scope of a guidance counselor's ethical privacy obligations. So guidance in this area can be gleaned from considering the function of statutory confidentiality obligations in analogous professions. A large law firm is obligates as an entity to preserve the attorney-client privilege. So this privilege is no way impedes the ability of the law firm staff, like from sharing information necessary to serve the client. So similarly, a hospital consists of a team of medical professionals changed with a clear physician-patient duty to preserve confidentiality. So this duty is no way impedes the interchange of information among concerned professionals. Next. The practical considerations relating to confidentiality. So there are a number of practical considerations that guidance counselor should follow in order to avoid misunderstandings with regard to confidentiality or keeping secrets or keeping of a private information. So minor students should be informed of the counselor's general obligation to disclose information to acquiring parents prior to forming the counseling relationship. And guidance should be limited to the area supported by school policy. So when working with minors, counselors should encourage family involvement when possible. Remember, parents of minor have the right to information in most circumstances. So dapat involved dyan ang parents, especially when it comes to students' problem. Next. Practical consideration related to confidentiality. Legal counsel should be sought when a guidance counselor encounter a gray area. And the safety of the students and safety of the third parties should be paramount. So when we say paramount, it's about a very important or a highest rank of importance in the counselor's consideration. And abuse will always be reported, and threats of injury to third parties will be reported. Next, confidentiality of relation to parents. So guidance counselor are frequently confronted with questions regarding their duty of disclosure to parents and the relationship between this duty and the confidential nature of the counseling relationship. So now let's proceed with the ethical guidelines for counselors and parents. So the professional school counselor informs parents of the counselor's role with emphasis on the confidential nature of the counseling relationship between the counselor and the counselee. Because it provides parents with accurate, comprehensive, and relevant information in an objective and caring manner as appropriate and consistent with ethical responsibilities to the counselee. So there are a number of statutory and regulatory circumstances when the general duty of confidentiality must yield to duty to disclose. So first, examples to warn a threat of physical violence or substantial damage to property. And the duty to report a violation of the Safe Schools Act. And the duty to report bullying, duty to report suspect child abuse, physical and sexual, duty to report misconduct towards students by school personnel, and duty to report or refer threats of self-inflicted harm. And lastly, pregnancy. So in here, dili ra siya, it's not only that's not only focuses on physical violence ka ng mga kuan ra kabahin sa school, ka ng mga violence like wala sila nag-follow sa school rules, but it also includes like sexual harassment. Like in the last part, it's like pregnancy, mga mga sexual abuses. Then elementary counselors work with students, teachers, parents, administration. So, people who manage the way a school functions. So, it is, this elementary counselors work with is to achieve educational goals of the school and its effective operation. So, yes, elementary counselors work with this because it's part of their duty of being a counselee. Next, let's proceed with the goals of the elementary guidance counselor. So, ang goal is to help children understand themselves and others. So, to prevent problems from developing, to help identify children with special needs, to provide crisis intervention when necessary, to continue or facilitate efforts of others with those of parents, teachers, and administrators. So in here, the goals of the elementary guidance counselor is to foster children of becoming an ethical type of person and knowing what is right to do something in their lives. Next, how can elementary guidance counselors help students? It helps students to do better in school, and it builds positive self-images. No? Students develop better interpersonal relationships and develop good feelings about school, family, and work. So, dapat jud tabang ang elementary guidance counselors sa students about family. So, now let's proceed with the premises of child guidance. So, first, primary responsibility for the development and well-being of children lies within the family, and all segments of society must support families as they rear their children. Number 2, assuring the well-being of all families is the cornerstone of healthy society and requires universal access to programs and services that provide resources and support for the varying needs of families.